Welcome to It's Not That Deep, the place where we discover how deep our lives' issues really are. I'm your host, Rukeme, who shuffles living between Lagos and Abuja and is very opinionated law student. Each week, I dive into topics and discussions that affects being a young, searching Gen Z in Nigeria. Come join me for a fun, informative, entertaining ride. So grab your headphones, settle in, and let's explore, learn, laugh together on It's Not That Deep. This week's episode is going to be on Who Am I? Exploring Identity in a Modern World. Psalm 18 verse 2. The Lord is my rock and my fortress and my savior. My God is my rock in whom I find protection. He is my shield that saves me and my place of safety. On today's episode, we're going to be reading stories about identity and belonging and culture, and the stories I have read or I have prepared for today is going to just be dealing with basic identity crisis. The reason why I picked this topic for today is because recently, I think like in this past year, like a couple of months, the latter part of the year, praise the Lord, hallelujah, only last quarter of the year, but like the last 9 months, or let me say 8 months, I had been thinking that I'm actually Yoruba. Like it has just been coming to like I think I'm just like getting to identify as Yoruba, because all my life is my mom is Yoruba and my father is Yoruba from Delta State, and my mom is from Ekiti State. Like I bear an Yoruba name. I have Yoruba names, by the ways. I have 2 Yoruba names, but the only person that calls me by my Yoruba name is my mom. My cultural name, that's my Yoruba name, is what I bear in school, like in uni. And all my life, I've just really identified closely to the Yoruba culture. Mind you, I can't really speak the language. Not even really. I can't speak the language, but like I had just been. It has just always been in my mind that I was an Yoruba girl, and maybe it was partly because of how patriarchal Nigeria is. The child is the father's child. However, I never really had the time to like think that I was a Yoruba child. Growing up, we used to do this cultural event in school that we called Cultural Day, and cultural days I never really had the opportunity to dress as Yoruba, but because it never really was instilled in me that I was also Yoruba as much as I was Yoruba. And recently, I school in Lagos, like I said, like you would have known. I shuffle between Lagos and Abuja, and being in Lagos has predominantly a large amount of Yoruba people. And I just started realizing that, truly, I'm also part of these people. I'm also like, I'm as much of my mother as I'm of my father. So this episode really holds dearly to my heart, because I'm just like trying to realize that and come to terms that truly, I'm Yoruba. I'm partly from Ekiti State, like as much as I'm from Delta State. So yeah, there goes. The first story is going to be on a babe. Let me not say babe. A female. She is. Okay, let me just go right into the introduction, the background. I grew up in a multicultural family with a mix of Eastern and Western influences. My father is from India and my mother is American. I was born in the US, but we spent a significant part of my childhood traveling between the two countries. Now in my late 20s, I find myself caught in a dilemma about my cultural identity. For most of my life, I have embraced both cultures equally. I celebrated Diwali with my dad's side for the family and Thanksgiving with my mom's side. However, as I entered adulthood and began working in a globalized environment, I noticed a shift. My colleagues, who were mostly from homogeneous backgrounds, often struggled to understand my dual identity. They would ask questions like, so which culture do you identify with more? or make comments suggesting that my background was a novelty rather than a genuine part of who I am. On one hand, I felt a strong connection to my Indian heritage and always valued the traditions and family bonds from that side. On the other hand, I was deeply rooted in the American culture through my education, lifestyle, and the majority of my friends. This duality often left me feeling like I didn't fully belong to either world. The dilemma intensified when I was offered a promotion that would require me to relocate to a corporate office in India. This opportunity is a significant career advancement, but it also means immersing myself in the culture of my father's homeland full time. I worry that moving might alienate me from my American side of my identity, especially since most of my close relationships and professional connections are in the US. To be honest, I think the dilemma should really be straightforward. I cannot really say about myself because I've not had the opportunity to permanently move to a place, like a location. However, I was born in Abuja. I was buttered in Abuja, raised in Abuja. I have always spent most of my life in Abuja. However, I am not strongly tied with the Abuja culture, like the Hausa speaking people or the Bagi speaking people, the cultural aspect of it. So I don't really have strong ties to the to the culture, but I have strong ties to the place. I don't know whether that's clear. But honestly speaking, I think that you should allow yourself room to grow. Life is not straightforward, in all honesty. Like you said it particularly yourself, you spent some years here, you spent some years there. Like over time you would adjust, as like, and the connection and the people that you're really trying to hold on to in the US, you would get to realize that a lot of the times you're just holding on to things that have let go of you in the first instance. Like maybe the friends, I'm not saying that, oh, you might actually really have a big dilemma, your friends might be all nice and all good, but life happens, people's stories change. People that you see five times or 6 times a week, in the next couple of years you might not see them fortnightly, you might not see them every 2 weeks. Because of life is happening, you're also changing. If it's going to really be beneficial for you to take this promotion that you're offered, and you really value your work life, you really operate on a very large scale, my personal advice would be to take it and move to India. Keep an open mind. But if you know that you are going to regret it, there are sometimes we make decisions that we already know we'll regret in the future. If you know you're going to regret it, don't do it. It's not worth it. Because if you're in a space and you already hate this space before you move to this space, you become miserable, you become hateful and spiteful about your life, and you just keep thinking about the past, and the past has happened and the future is waiting for you to happen. So just my own advice would be to take the position, because what they call you seem young, you still have a lot of life ahead of you, and you can actually still build a new life in a new place. It's never too late, neither is it ever too early. Like you still have room to make foundations in India. And good, it's not such a foreign place for you. Like it's not somewhere that you've never been to, a new place, a fresh start. So you still have some groundings to India. That's my own advice. So the second story would be, I am a 31-year-old dual citizen of Japan and the United States. All our OPs, they are from the US. And the United States. My mother is Japanese and my father is American. I grew up in Japan until I was 15 and moved to the US for high school and college. Since then, I have been working in the US, but I visit Japan regularly to stay connected with my family there. I'm now facing a career crossroad that's forcing me to confront my cultural identity in a way I haven't before. I recently received a job offer from a major tech company in Tokyo, which is a dream opportunity for me professionally. However, this move would mean relocating to Japan permanently. While the idea of living and working in Japan is exciting, I'm also concerned about the implications of my personal and professional life in the US. In the US, I have built a strong professional network and a circle of friends who feel like family. I have also adapted to the American work culture and I'm well integrated into my community here. Moving to Japan will mean starting over in terms of building professional connections, adapting to a different work environment, and potentially dealing with a sense of cultural disconnection despite my background. Additionally, I'm worried about how this move might impact my relationships in the US and how well I would adapt to life in Japan. After having spent so many formative years in the US, the prospect of being in a different cultural environment full time brings up concerns about losing touch with my American side of my identity that I have grown accustomed to. Personally, OP, I just think that you really like being American. That's the honest truth. And I think if you had loved being American so much, what was the pressure to applying for a job in Japan, where you most likely would have known it would be a permanent position? Maybe you were looking for opportunities and it was just one time applications. I don't know, I'm not allowed to judge you, but I think the story is not full here. That's my own contribution. When you spend, I think when I was 15, I was like in SS2, and I won't say I was fully developed, hell nah, but moving to the fact that you spent like, meaning most likely your first language is Japanese, you had to adjust moving to the US too. I don't know, like I really don't know, the information is not a lot, but like I'm not trying to like push you down. I think if you really like to be an American, you should have stayed being American. Like I live in a country, Nigeria, where there is a really strong Japa culture. We call it's a really strong immigration culture, but in Nigeria we call it Japa. Like people Japa and people Japada, so meaning they go abroad and some people come back and some people don't, like no matter how the hardship is. So I'm not one to really like talk about like immigrating, but like I just think that because you already really have, it seems you really have strong ties to your American self. Like yeah, also American, mind you, yeah, partly American. And if you like being American so much, and the thought of moving to Japan is so dreadful, because with what you've written here, the only plus about moving to Japan for you is your professional life. And you seem to really take your personal and even your professional life in the US seriously. So if you really have to make the move, because in all honesty, life is only good for people that can afford it. Like money is really essential, career is really essential, and if this is going to be such a strong hold on your career and you really have a strong tie to your career, please take up the job. That's my own advice. But if not, if you really love being American and you have families, friends, like your ties to the American culture is really strong, like please stay in the US. Because I believe that you still have really strong ties to Japan, because you literally grew up there for the first 15 years of your life, and you'd obviously still have like high school friends who you might not talk to any longer because it's the 21st century and people really don't hold relationships so dear to heart. But like I just think it would be easier for you to acclimatize, and maybe you could consider moving there for a short while, like let's say 5 years. Give yourself a 5-year plan, in there for 5 years, see how life is, and move back. Like it really doesn't take a lot, or I think so, I perceive so. Yeah. The literature for this episode would be Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe, and we're going to be spotlighting on Okonkwo's struggle with identity. Recently, I found out that David Oyelowo, he's a British Nigerian actor. He's going to be producing a movie on Things Fall Apart. I don't know whether it's going to be a film or it's going to be a series, but whatever it's going to be, I'm really expectant, because Idris Elba is going to be playing Okonkwo. Some of my Nigerian brethren had a lot to say about that, but personally I think it's a good initiative, because no offense to Nigerians, this is, God please have mercy on me, I hope this doesn't come to bite me in the butt years from now, but like this is going to be such a good Nigerians are not really the best when it comes to remakes. Is either they make it too cinematic and it becomes too boring, or they don't really put effort and they don't want to make it funny all the way. And Things Fall Apart is such a story I hold dear to my heart, because I read it when I was really young. I don't even know why I was reading that at such a young age, because I think I could not understand or grasp the essence of what such a story was, at least to the African community. But it was such a good book. It's still such a good book. It's going to outlive this time, outlive this age. It's such a part of Africa's identity, and I think everybody should read it. But this episode, we're going to be talking about Okonkwo's struggle with identity. Okonkwo's father was a failure, like a strong failure. Not to give a lot of spoilers in the book, but like Okonkwo came from a lineage of. They didn't really talk about his lineage now that I think about it, but Chinua Achebe made sure to talk about emphasize the fact that his father was such a mediocre. He wasn't even a mediocre. Mediocre is average. His father was such a failure. In the Igbo land, I'm not Igbo, by the way, so please don't take my word for anything. But I really think they place value on tubers like cassava. Do they plant potato? I'm not sure. Yam, especially yams, and the amount of yams or the amount of heads of yams that you have really is synonymous to how wealthy you are as a person. And so obviously this is agriculture. You have to put in physical effort. And at that point in time in life, compared to now where everything is technological, Okonkwo's father hated anything physically strenuous. He hated straining himself physically. He was in love with his flute, which in this age and time will make him really elegant. It would give him some classiness, because the rich people don't go outside. But that was not the way it was then. Like, that time, having a good farmland, being able to prosper, was tied with your wealth, your agricultural wealth. And Okonkwo's father he wasn't up for the whole physical strenuousness. So because of that, he was a failure. And it seemed like he did not even mind, because he was known for owing debt. He owed so much debt that it seems it was he was so good at owing debt, because typically when everybody already knows you as a debtor, they won't want to lend money to you. But he knew the act of borrowing money. Like, even though he was already in debt, he knew how to gather more debt on himself. And he did a lot of sacrifices. He tried taking the short way out, and Okonkwo despised that. He despised that so much that it was such a motivator, It was such a motivator to pushing him out of his poverty life. Let me say that. He was a wrestler, so he was physically fit. He was such a good wrestler that he was known in many lands before he became so wealthy, like, that he wasn't longer tied with his father's name. And that's the thing about the Igbo culture compared to like Yoruba culture and some other places in Nigeria, where there is the belief that you can make a name for yourself if you put in the effort. So he was no longer tied to his father's failures, but Okonkwo's identity as the son of a failed man never left him. It was such a good motivator that he turned into a bitter root in himself. He also despised his first son because he saw the laziness of his father and his first son. And a lot of the decisions Okonkwo made for himself, if you read later on go into the book, most of the decisions that he made were always tied to the identity of his father's failures. Both the decisions that turned good, decisions that turned bad. And if you also look at in between the lines, you'll actually see that upon all that Okonkwo had achieved, he had an inferiority complex too. He could not see himself as failing in anything, and he strived so much to make sure not to fail. And sometimes failure can be good. That would be something I'll settle for in another episode. But taking on the life of Okonkwo's identity, or his struggle with identity, A lot of the times we tie ourselves to where we are from, to what our parents had done, to what our family name is known for. In this part of the world, Africa, family names are really such a big deal. Even with how globalized we have become, it's still such a thing. What your father has become. Oh, that's a former judge's daughter. Oh, that's Adenike's child. Those things, what your parents, and it could be good. It's not a particularly bad way of life, but because of that, we struggle to make names for just ourselves. We struggle to leave behind the shackles of both the good and the bad, because a lot of it can seem from just a good perspective. Like, some people never pick to make a name for themselves because of how big their parents were and how good their parents' name were. Like, they think of it as a burden instead of looking at it as a good thing and trying to be their own person. Like, there was this thing I used to say, oh, not even me, it's like an African saying, oh, you came to this world alone, you'll leave alone. Like, you came to this world with nothing and you'll leave without anything. And it's the same thing with, like, owning your own identity. You didn't come to the world holding hands. Even twins that came with, like, people that came with others, like twins, like, they would not live together. Like, it is not and they did not come out at the same time. Like, twins are not born, oh, what's the time? 6:49. The first and the second twin cannot come out at the same time. Everybody comes out by themselves, and everybody just has to account to themselves, their own struggle. Make a name for yourself. Think about your own identity. Formulate your own self. Identity can be derived, but it should not be relied upon another person. And that's a wrap for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed diving into these intriguing stories and dilemmas with me. Remember, it's okay to feel torn between different worlds and identities. What matters most is how you navigate and make sense of them. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Please leave a review. I would really be grateful for that on your favorite podcast platform, wherever you're listening from. Your feedback helps keep the conversation going and brings more people into our community. Got a story or dilemma you would love to share with me? Connect with me on all socials. The link would be in the description, or send me an email at itsnotthatdeep.rukeme@gmail.com. itsnotthatdeep.rukeme@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in. And remember, life's a journey, not a destination. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and you might just see that it's really not that deep.